Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Frivolous Writer. It's been a long time since I've been on camera recording these videos, and for many reasons. But last time we talked, I think it was mid-November, so it's been a while since the last time that I was able to share my experience or share my writing journey with all of you. And I wanted to do another video because a lot has happened. So back in November, I spent some time with my partner and my mother-in-law. We went to Prague. It was wonderful. If you've never been to Prague, go. It was phenomenal. And then also I came back and my parents came and visited me for a while. So it was just awesome. Like a really great end to the 2025 year. And then since then, I've been writing nonstop, lots of different things. And so I started writing some children's books. I've started writing some high heat sci-fi romance. I have started writing a financial literacy book, and I've got some other projects on the go as well. One thing I have not continued writing is my young adult speculative fiction novel that I've been sharing through here. And so I wanted to actually take some time to share a few things that I've learned on this journey of writing my first novel. Lots of things that I've learned. One, I took some time to start reading more. What I found is that I was not at the level that I wanted to be at when I was writing. And I found that that was actually becoming a bit of a deterrent to me actually writing. I could hear that voice really strong in my head about that. So I've read since then, I think 4 books since November. But the one that I just finished actually this morning was A Marriage at Sea. I borrowed it from my local library, and it was phenomenal, you guys. Very easy, when I first started reading it, which is my first point. I kept thinking that my writing wasn't at the level that I wanted it to be at. And I think it's because I kept comparing myself to like these Victorian authors who use a lot of words, a lot of big words, or these super famous, amazing, celebrated authors. And I kept comparing myself to them. And what I loved about A Marriage at Sea, it was so beautifully written, but it was so simple. It was in plain language, everyday language, and yet they told such a poignant and incredible, really, story. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, I would recommend you go read it. I started it yesterday evening, and I finished it this morning. Like, that's how quick I went through it, because it was just so quick to get through, because the story just moved along. And what I learned from that is you can tell a really good story in a very simple way, and the chapters were super short, so it felt like you were just flying through it, which I was, because I wanted to learn what happened next in the story. The other thing I learned was actually when I was reading this book, and I'm still reading this one. I am almost done. I've got about 100 pages left of The Eye of the World, which is the first book of the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. And very well written, epic story. It's taking me a lot longer than I thought. I've never read his stories. It reminds me, there is no comparison. It's fantastic. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of things happening. But book 1 is really just explaining the world and explaining the magic system and the path of everything. So for me, the middle of the book was really long. It took me a while to get through. I could only do about a chapter at a time. But a point that I want to make about reading that book is actually I think it was like the prologue, where Robert Jordan's explaining this village that these characters are all from. And it felt to me like like a free form thought exercise, like a journal entry where he's just walking through the town and just talking about the characters when they were kids and what they're doing. And what I loved, and this actually really stuck out to me, was as he's writing, he's going off on like a little bit of a tangent, and then he just writes anyway and moves on to the next thing that he wanted to say. And that's something that I do in my writing, that I stop myself because I'm like, that's not what I want it to say, and then I stop, when really in draft one, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to just write. You're just writing what's in your mind. You're telling that story. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be everything you needed. It's not going to be the finished product because it's draft one. You're just getting it, actually not even from here. You're getting it from out here, bringing it to here, and then onto the paper, I was going to say, and then speak it, which sometimes I do talk to myself out loud as I'm writing, especially if I'm writing dialogue, because I want to hear how it sounds. But so now, as I was telling this epiphany that I had to one of my good friends who's also a writer. We went for coffee, and we were talking about, we actually met to do some writing, but then we ended up just catching up and talking the whole time. But I was telling her about this, and you know who you are. But I was telling her about this, and then she's like, oh my God, that's such a good idea, because then as you go to edit, you can just do a Control F on your Word document, if that's what you're using. And then you can find all of your anyways. So then you can go through and go, okay, I know that this is where I needed to fix something in my text. It will just make your second draft so much easier. Oh, she's a genius. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is now I'm not going to omit the word anyway. I'm going to allow my mind to, or I'm going to allow that piece to happen, because I don't want to come out of that state. Because for any of you that are writing, you'll realize that there's those times when words are just coming and you're not even in control of what you're saying. You're just allowing it to flow through you and kind of channel that story and then let it be told on its own. And that's kind of where I get to. But then what happens is I can't remember the next thing, or I can't remember what I want to say, or I don't know what I want to say, and it kind of stops me. And before, I would like take a break instead of just going anyway and then just writing the next thing that's coming, so that there's no break in that flow, which, game changer, guys. So in my most recent project that I'm writing, that's what I've been doing. I haven't allowed myself to stop that process. So other learnings that I've had. I found a program. It's free. It's an online website. It's free or pay per use. So you can use the free version, which is what I'm doing. But you can also pay for it as well. But it's called Readsy, and it's a very similar to like Scrivener or any of those other writing platforms. And I've started using that. So instead of using my notebook to write, which this is a blank page, good. It's my journal. So I still write in my notebook every day, but I do it as like a journal entry. So a way to kind of clear my mind before I actually sit down to start writing. The other thing that I've been doing is actually sitting in my office to write every day. So I sit down, whether I write or not is different, but I'm giving myself that space, that commitment to myself, commitment to the project that I'm writing, so that every single day I have my same routine, which I kind of talked about in the past. But before, I would write in my living room, sometimes in my kitchen, sometimes out on my porch. So now what I do is I do my journaling anywhere, so wherever I might be sitting, but I have to do it. And then I go to my office and I write in my office when I sit down on my laptop and write. And it's so much faster, because now I don't have to retranscribe or transcribe rather the entire thing that I wrote in my notebook to get it into a Word document or now on Readsy, so that I can go and edit it or put it in order or think about how I want the story to go. The other thing that you can do is like take notes, ideas, all of that stuff. Also, I'm not paid by these people. I'm way too new into this. I just wanted to share that this is something that I found that worked for me. But I don't even know if I have to say that, but whatever. I'm not sponsored or paid by anything. But I found it to be super helpful. So that's the other thing that I've been doing. And then one last thought. So one of the things that kind of stopped me from writing the book that I was reading with all of you, and I still have that idea, and I still am going to be working on that. I'm still just kind of processing what that story is. Like, what is it that, what is the story that I'm actually telling there? So I'm kind of thinking about that. But the thing that I was reading, go figure, about writing to stop myself from writing, which I know all of us do. But I came across a quote from Stephen King, and I'll link it in the comments section, or maybe in the description. But essentially, I can't remember the quote verbatim, but essentially what he said is, your first draft is for you only. So don't share your first draft until your story is told, until you're done. Then by draft 2, you can start sharing, because now it's already out of you. So what that really hit me, because what I found is there was a lot of pressure. I was feeling pressure to not only write the story, but to make sure that I had it transcribed, make sure that I was posting it, make sure I was reading it to everybody, even though I wasn't really comfortable with where it was. And that took a lot of strength, and it was exactly what I needed to do in the time, because that actually brought me to where I'm at now, which is, I think I'm not going to read my story anymore. And the other thing he said is, don't even tell what your story is to anyone until you've finished your first draft. Because you really do want to protect that story and what it is, and you want to keep hearing that story until it's done. And then once it's done with your first draft, of course it's going to change. Brandon Sanderson talks about your first book, you'll probably throw away. Even if you don't, your first few chapters of your book, you're probably going to throw away, because it's that's just normal. That's a part of the process. And so from now on, what I'm going to do is every week I'm going to share my learnings just like I was before, but I'm not going to read my book, because I feel like I need to protect it, keep it in my mind until it's done. And then once I finish my first draft, then we can start talking about, what does that look like? And I've been looking a lot at different ways to start sharing that, and what that might look like in the future, and how am I going to share this process with everyone? Because that's really why I started this channel. The point of this channel was to actually get people that were in a similar situation as me, who wanted to start writing, didn't know where to start, didn't know how to get motivated, didn't know what the pitfalls were, like all of that. And so share that with me, or share my experience with all of you. So then that way we can all kind of learn and grow and develop together, and give back to each other, and build this writers community in a way that that we all start to benefit. Because I think, I probably should have talked about this in the beginning, but everything that's happening in the world is it's really starting to affect me. And I think it affects all of us. I think it affects all of us on the hope that we feel, or the hopelessness that we feel. I feel like this is something that can bring some positive change to the world when we start to express the things that we're feeling, and start to share and collaborate and come together and help each other and lift each other up. That really is one of the only ways to change the experience that all of us are having on this planet. And so I don't want to end on a bad note, and I hope that leaves everyone with a feeling of inspiration and motivation, because we're all on that journey. And if you're here, it's probably because you've been trying to find some kind of a motivation yourself, or you're like hearing that voice, or that call, that pull to start writing, and to share your art, and share your soul, and share what you're feeling in some kind of way. And so for me, that's through writing fiction. I love fiction, science fiction, fantasy, just any kind of speculative fiction at all, because I love the stories that are told without limits. But even if you're a nonfiction writer, even if you are a short story writer, or poet, or any kind of writer at all, or even artist, this is This is what you're meant to do. So take this as an opportunity, an inspiration, motivation to really lean into that discomfort, be vulnerable, and share what you have. So with that, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you learned a little something. If you had some kind of takeaway, make sure you comment it below. If you learned something since the last time that we had a video, make sure you comment it below because I want to start sharing these ideas with everybody. And then as more starts to develop down the road, I'll continue to share, but I want to try and do these weekly again. So every Friday, start sharing one thing that I've learned. So I shared quite a few today. But I can't wait to hear from you all and to share some more on this journey. And then let's hopefully get one of these projects finished. So with that, have a good day, everybody.